He buried his best friend alive. And for 7 years, nobody knew. But the land knew. And what the land knows, it always returns. Welcome back to ZARA'S African Folktale. Sit close. This one is not easy to hear. In the village of Uforo, nestled between 2 rivers in the heart of Igbo land, there lived 2 men who were closer than brothers, Chukwuemeka and Obiora. Same compound, same pot, same childhood scars. The elders called them Ofuobi, one heart. But that was before the land. When old Mazieze, the wealthiest man in Uforo, died, he left behind something far more dangerous than wealth, a secret, and both men knew it. Stay with me, because what unfolded next will make you question everyone sitting close to you right now. Mazieze had no sons, only one daughter, Adaize, quiet, observant, the kind of woman who hears everything and reveals nothing. Before he died, Mazieze called Chukwuemeka alone to his bedside and whispered 3 things. 1, where his true wealth was buried. 2, who he wanted Adaize to marry. 3, a warning. If greed enters this compound, the old man rasped, blood will water the soil. Then he closed his eyes forever. Chukwuemeka walked out and told Obiora everything, because that is what you do with your Ofuobi, your one heart. That was his first mistake. The wealth was hidden beneath the Iroko tree at the edge of the compound. Clay pots filled with iron rods, coral beads and cowries. A fortune that could buy half the village. Old Mazieze's wish was clear. That wealth, that land, and Adaize herself were all meant for Chukwuemeka. Chukwuemeka told Obiora that night, overjoyed, and Obiora smiled, embraced him, poured palm wine. Brother, you deserve this. I will stand beside you. But that night, Obiora did not sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his crumbling mud hut and he counted everything Chukwuemeka was about to have. The woman, the land, the wealth, the name. And what did Obiora have? By morning, the decision was already made. Obiora moved quietly, deliberately. He went to Adaize's family in secret and told them Chukwuemeka was a thief, that he planned to steal Mazieze's wealth and disappear. He brought a paid elder to confirm the lie. Then he turned around and told Chukwuemeka that the family had rejected him, that they'd heard rumors that the marriage was finished. Chukwuemeka, heartbroken, went to the compound to confront them. But Obiora had already told Adaize that Chukwuemeka had withdrawn, that he no longer wanted her. 2 people, both devastated, neither speaking to each other. And Obiora standing between them, collecting the silence like a harvest. Now here is what you need to understand. When Obiora came to deliver the news to Adaize personally, she looked at him for a long moment before she responded. Not with tears, not with anger, just a look. The kind that sees farther than the words being spoken. She said simply, "I understand." And something in the way she said it should have warned him. But greedy men are never good at reading women.
Obiora had one problem left. Chukwuemeka still knew where the wealth was buried, still knew the true wishes of Matieze. As long as he breathed and could speak, everything could collapse. So, Obiora did what men do when they have crossed too many lines to return. He crossed one more. He sent word to Chukwuemeka that he had something urgent to show him, near the Iroko tree, at night. Chukwuemeka came without hesitation. Of course he did. This was his brother. What happened at that tree? The full weight of it, I will leave between you and your imagination. But understand this, Chukwuemeka did not walk away, and the soil beneath that Iroko tree was freshly turned by morning. And Obiora, hands still trembling, walked back into the village and told everyone that Chukwuemeka had fled in shame over the broken marriage. People believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was the grieving friend, the one left behind. Within one dry season, he had married Adaize, unearthed the pots, and was living in Matieze's compound. He had everything. Everything except sleep. 7 years passed. Obiora became respected. He sat with elders. He settled disputes. But Adaize watched. She noticed that he never sat with his back to the Iroko tree, that he flinched whenever someone mentioned Chukwuemeka's name, that he gave too much explanation when no one had asked a question. She began asking quiet questions in the village, not about Obiora, about Chukwuemeka, about the night he supposedly left. Small questions spread across years. She visited the elder who had spoken against Chukwuemeka, and she brought him palm wine and patience. And in his 3rd year of guilt, that elder broke. He told her everything Obiora had paid him to say. Adaize thanked him calmly, went home, made her husband his evening meal, and smiled at him the way she always did. She was still building. But something else was happening in Uforo. The Iroko tree had begun to lean, not from wind or rain. It leaned slowly, as though being pushed from beneath. Children who played nearby came home with nosebleeds and night terrors. Root tappers refused to go near it. And an old woman who lived at the edge of the village said she heard a voice rising from the ground near that tree on moonless nights, calling one name, Obiora. There was a long pause. The village laughed nervously and said it was only the wind, but the tree kept leaning. And Obiora, whenever someone mentioned it, would go very still. In the 7th year, a stranger came to Uforo, an old woman, eastern path, carved walking staff, no explanation of where she had come from. By custom, Obiora welcomed her. That evening, she sat beside the fire and she said to Adaize, almost casually, I once knew a young man from this village, loyal as sunrise. I wonder, does he still visit? Before Adaize could answer, the woman turned to the darkness outside and murmured, what the soil swallows, it always spits back. By morning, she was gone. No footprints, no trace. Obiora walked to the Iroko tree alone that morning. He stood there for a long time. When he returned, he was not the same man who had left. That night, he called Adaize into the hut, closed the door, and wept.
He told her everything. The false witnesses, the lies, the split he engineered between her and Chukwuemeka, the night at the Iroko tree, all of it. Adaize sat without moving. When he finished, she asked him one question. Do you remember what my father said before he died? Obiora's breath stopped. He had never told her those words. No one had. She said them slowly, every syllable deliberate. If greed enters this compound, blood will water the soil. How? He whispered. Because he told me to, she said. He told me to watch and to wait and to trust that the truth would find its own way home. And I did. Adaize had known from the beginning that something was wrong. Her father had warned her privately.
if Chukwuemeka does not come, if another man stands in his place, that man has taken what was never his. So she had not married Obiora in ignorance. She married him to stay close, to gather. 7 years of small conversations with broken elders, of tracking every coin from those pots, of noting every lie, every bribed mouth, every inconsistency in the story of the night Chukwuemeka disappeared. And the confession, she needed it in his own voice. Which is why, before she called him into that hut, she had already positioned 2 senior elders behind the dividing cloth. Witnesses. Obiora looked at the cloth. It moved. The next morning, all of Oforo gathered. Obiora was brought before the Igwe and the full council. Adeaze presented everything: the paid elders' testimony, the bribed witnesses, the trail of wealth that was never his, and a confession spoken freely. Obiora had nothing left to say. The man who had ruled this compound through silence stood inside it, wordless. The judgment was swift. Stripped of land, stripped of title, stripped of wealth. His sons, because children do not carry a father's crime, placed into Adeaze's care. And Obiora himself banished. No village, no name, no people. In Igbo tradition, that is not merely punishment, that is erasure. But then, the elders went to the Iroko tree. To mark the site, to honor what lay beneath it. They found the ground already disturbed, opened from below, empty. And across the dark mouth of the earth, laid with impossible neatness, a single fresh palm frond. No one ever explained it. Some said the land released what had been avenged. Some said Chukwuemeka's spirit had collected itself and walked on. The elders simply said, the earth does not hold what justice has already settled. There is an Igbo saying, Ihe onyek para ona lorachiya. What a person digs for another returns to them. Obiora thought silence was armor. He thought 7 years was enough to bury the truth beneath a respectable life. But Adeaze understood something he never did. Patience is not weakness. It is the sharpest weapon a wronged person can carry. She did not act in rage. She built in silence. And when she struck, there was nothing left to defend against. Now, I want to ask you something real. If you were Adeaze, knowing what you knew from the very beginning, would you have stayed, built your case across 7 years, or would the weight of it have broken you long before the end? Leave your answer below. I genuinely want to read it. And if this story moved you, like this video. It tells me you're ready for more. Subscribe to ZARA'S African Folktale. We don't tell easy stories here. We go into the roots, we go into the marrow. Share this with someone who needs it today. I am Zara, and I will see you in the next story.